So, my dear ones, welcome into the third already Sunday in January. And so here we are, and it's that beautiful month when we get right back into the heart of the teaching of Science of Mind and Spirit. And in the first week, we looked at again, and most likely, we got it a little bit deeper this time when we thought about, in awe and wonder and delight, the fact that there is only one power, there's only one source, there's only one presence, there's only one life, there's only one mind. You can call it what you like, but it's the one thing: God, infinite being, infinite intelligence. And it is the cause of everything, the creator of everything, and everything it creates is good and very good. And then we looked at the way it works through law, the law of consciousness, the law of mind and action. And we know that that happens in a macro scale and in a micro scale, cosmically macro, individualized expression by means of you and me, micro. And today we're looking at what life does. And of course, what it does is it creates. Each and every one of us is a co-creator with the divine. And you and I are always causing something to happen, creating a space for something to happen. And where we create that space is in mind, is in consciousness. And as spirit creates, so too do you. Spirit has an idea, it contemplates the idea, immediately the idea is there present. You have an idea, you contemplate the idea, it takes a little bit longer in our process. Contemplate and contemplate, stir the pot, pour more ingredients into the pot to make it all the more strong and embodied. And then it happens in our lives too, in the very same way, except the results are not the same. The only difference in the way that spirit creates and you and I create shows up in the results. Because everything that the cosmic infinite intelligent force and presence of being creates can always be pronounced as good and very good. Not the same in your life and my life. I know that for sure. There's much in my life that I think I have created that is not so good. But I can catch up. I can move out of that erroneous way of thinking, that erroneous way of feeling, that false way of thinking and feeling. I can catch up with my own essence. I can come into the awareness of the truth, the true essence of my being, which sets me free, I'm told. And that's the only way to be free, is to get clarity, to catch consciousness. And I keep repeating consciousness. We're all conscious. We're born conscious. We'll move out of this life conscious. Even when we're snoring and fast asleep, we're conscious. There's movement going on in our minds all of the time, whether awake or asleep. But the key is to be consciously conscious, to be aware of what we're thinking 51% of the time. Once we hit 51%, we'll move up and we'll move up and we'll move up until we have total integration and become the spiritualized individual expression of life, which is the perfect balance, convergence between the human and the divine, just as it happened in the Master Teacher Jesus and all those who are called enlightened. However, in material form, it doesn't matter how high up in consciousness a material form becomes, there's always more advancement. There's always more advancement, because what I said was life is a creating power, a creating force. And cosmic infinite intelligence is going to be creating everlastingly, because that's what it loves to do. Create. It loves to show up in as many expressions as possible. Now, not only is it continuing to create individualized expressions, whether it's in a pebble or a stone or a tree or a star or you or me, what happens is that individualized expression of spirit is always eternally and continuously morphing itself into more and more of a bigger experience of itself. And so what happens is consciousness creates. The way consciousness creates is through a creative process of mind. And that creative process of mind is evolutionary. It's an evolutionary thing. It's always becoming more and more and more and more and more of itself in myriads of ways. And I can sum the whole process up in one word that we either like or dislike, and there's no in between. And you can sum it all up in one word: change. That's how life happens. You and I are constantly changing for good, bad, or indifferent. That's the creative process. We are made to change. We have the ability to change. It is our nature to change. We're supposed to change, and it is a good thing. Once you and I make up our minds that it's a good thing. But what is the one thing that we are most resistant of in the human species? Change. And it doesn't matter whether it's change for the good or the bad or the indifferent. There's always a little bit of a break goes on to begin with. Very few of us constantly and consistently are spontaneously able to change and go with the flow and without resistance. So the call today is to look at ourselves and see how still resistant we are when it comes to this thing called change, or to see if change is something that we have a challenge around. Because you're in the flow of it and I'm in the flow of it. And we can either flow with it or against it. We can go with the current of it, or we can flow against the current of it. But sooner or later it's going to happen one way or another. So what it does, life, is to change, and you and I today are invited to embrace that term, change, and to make it a friend and not a foe, and to be able to willingly investigate it, suss it out, see what it's all about, and perhaps say, I'm going to give it a shot. I'll try it out. What can I lose? Nothing to lose, but perhaps a great deal to gain as a result of that. So there's no use just studying all the great books and engaging in all the great spiritual practices and so on if the simplicity of it all is lost to us. I'm in the game of life, and the game of life is change. And the winners are the ones who know how to change and change well. So it's as simple and as challenging as that. My dear ones, Ernest Holmes says that we are here in this life, he says, to live a life that's useful. Now, isn't that interesting? That's the word he chose. We're here to live a life that's useful. He said it's not going to be lived usefully if you and I are living in depression and morbidity. It can't be done. And as I reminded us this morning, and I love this when he said this, he said, you know what? There are so many sad faces in the world, and you don't need to add to them, because that's not what we're in Science of Mind for. Get your sour face out of it and put on the happy face and cheer yourself up. And if you do, you'll cheer the whole world up, and there'll be fewer sad faces walking around. So that long-drawn face is not supposed to be on yours. It's supposed to be a whole different thing for you and for me if we're truly going with the flow of the Science of Mind and Spirit. Now, we want to get the real basic bread and butter for all of it here on a Sunday morning. To go into the deeper science of the whole thing and to be able to chain it together very nicely, we have to take the classes. And I mean come together in class, not just read a book on your own and say, I've done it all, I know it all, I can recite it all. It doesn't happen like that. We walk the road of life alone, yes, but together. The together is very important, because each one of us is an individualized expression of spirit. And when we all converge together, we're all presenting a beautiful different facet of life. And as a result of that, we grow. We grow as one mind, we grow as one heart, we grow as one body, and we grow as one soul. The good Dr. Ernest Holmes says that we're supposed to live a life of abundant beingness, a life of joyous expectancy. And he says it's not going to happen if he says we are depressed or constantly complaining. It's not going to happen if you and I are depressed and constantly complaining. And it seems across the board that complaints is just second nature to us now, like breathing out and breathing in. I can guarantee you won't walk 10 steps and meet a person or two without listening to some kind of complaint or another. So if that's there in black and white in front of us, why is it that we read these things, we hear these things, we see these things, and yet it doesn't change us? Change us. And the only thing to change is me. The only thing I can change is me. And the biggest job of all in this planet is changing me. And to think that I could possibly change anybody else when I'm not doing such a good job of it myself is ridiculous. It's funny. It's a cosmic joke. And so there you have it. You are the answer to everything in your life. I'm the answer to everything that's going on in my life. The only thing I have to change is me. Now, that's not to say that you and I cannot come together and help each other to change and to be the best of ourselves, not to complain about ourselves, not to shake the fist at each other, and so on and so forth, not to think I'm better than anybody else or whatever, or not to say, oh, wish he was listening to that because he needs to hear that today. I only wish she was sitting in that seat today. This is what she needs to hear. No, she doesn't. He doesn't. I do. Don't you often go there, oh my God, this is great, I wish so-and-so was here. This is exactly what he needs to hear. This is exactly what she needs to listen to. We're so good at that. We're so good at that. And we forget, as Jesus said, for God's sake, what in the heaven's name is wrong with you? There you are, you're trying to get a little speck out of your neighbor's eye, and there's a hulking great big log on your own. Don't you see that? How can you try to tell this one to take the speck out of their eye when you have this big great hulking log in yours? You know, physician, heal thyself. What's the matter with you? Get a grip, you see. I mean, Jesus laughed. He laughed a lot. Actually, he laughed more than he cried. He did cry too, though, and with good reason. But he also laughed a lot because really and truly, why wouldn't you laugh? Look around. I mean, there's plenty to laugh about. There's also plenty to cry about, but you can do one or the other. I'd rather do the laughing. But only at myself, because I'm the funniest thing in my own life. I really am. I'm the greatest joke in my own life. I mean, really and truly. So it's good to laugh with yourself and at yourself and for yourself. It's better than crying, I can tell you that, except your tears would be crying tears of joy. That's a whole different thing. But remember, this thing called change is not for somebody else out there, or somebody in the family, or somebody at work, or somebody wherever. It's for me. The message is for me and me alone to change. Come higher, friend. Come higher, friend. And you, if you be lifted up into the higher conscious awareness of who and what you are, you will draw all good to and through yourself, is the message. Come higher means come higher up into conscious awareness of yourself. And when you do, you'll find there's only one self. And you look into the mirror of it every time you're looking into anybody else. Now, there's a thought, and there's a change that needs to occur in mind. And so we have this opportunity once again to look at ourselves and to really see beyond appearances, beyond failures, beyond successes, beyond anything that humanly speaking might be going on, and go beyond the human facade into the divine essence that I am in truth. The essence that came into being, the breath that came out of the breath that I am and was declared good and very good. Wouldn't it be lovely to find yourself and discover yourself as Spirit created you, as good and very good? Can you think of your life and how it would change if you woke up every morning saying to yourself and believed it, I am good, I am very good. To fall asleep at night saying, I am good and very good. And to remind yourself of that throughout the day, especially when somebody insults you and tells you quite the opposite, you can just breathe in and say, I am good and very good. I'd rather go with what Spirit thinks of me than what you do, dear heart, divine though you be, forgetful though you be. God bless you. I love you. I uplift you. I know only your good is unfolding. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? Why is it we won't try that out even for a day? For a day. A short moment in time is a day. And I can assure you, when we make up our mind to just do that for a day, we'll be challenged as soon as we make up our minds. As soon as we make up our minds, we will be challenged, because that just seems to be the nature of a three-dimensional planet Earth. So what? Challenge is a challenge. Now, some of us here, I know, are gamesters. They like to play games of all kinds, and they're very competitive. Well, why can't we make this a competitive thing, but only with ourselves? To be in competition only with ourselves. To set ourselves up to do better the next time. To win bigger the next time. To move ahead more wondrously the next time. To advance more deeply the next time. Because I've got to this stage, that wonderful game Candy Crush or whatever it is. I see people pitting themselves against this. I'm not going to buy a darn thing. I'm going to do it under my own auspices. I will not spend a gold bar or whatever it is you spend on these things. I'm going to outwit it myself. Now, if we had the same tenacity with everything else in our lives, my goodness me, as I said this morning, we could be walking on water. But here's the interesting thing about being able to walk on water. When you can, you say, oh, I'm going to take the ship. It's more fun. There's a lot happening on the ship. Now, whatever it's going to be in your life and in mine, it's going to be because of the way you think and the way you feel and the way you direct your energy. It's a very simple process. I mean, couldn't we have the same tenacity and joy and expectancy of the gardener going into the garden with those seeds, ready to plant those seeds, and already in the mind of the gardener, it's not the seeds in the packet, but it's the beautiful flowers that are going to come out of the seeds, and they're already kind of seeing them and smelling the fragrance of them and picturing themselves enjoying the beautiful garden that's going to result as a result of the sowing of the seeds. That's the way each day could be approached by you and me, the seeds of our mind. You could see yourself, look, I've got this great big packet of seeds in my mind today. I'm making up my mind what those seeds are going to be. And they're going to be full of joyous expectancy. They're going to be seeds that are going to grow. And when they come to fruition, I'm going to say, look at them, they're good and very good. Is this not a wonderful thing that I have created in my life? To God in me and through me and as me be the glory for these beautiful, beautiful seeds that have come to fruition. You could do it. I could do it. It's certainly worth a try. And don't say, it's lovely to come into the sanctuary and hear all of these things, isn't it? It's lovely to know that. It makes good sense. And then go out there and do nothing about it. The whole idea is to try out what you hear, to try out what you read, to try out what you're looking at in a video or whatever else it is. Try it out. You are your own laboratory, and your laboratory is your mind. You're experimenting all the time in your mind through the thoughts that you are thinking, the feelings that you are entertaining. So why not make it fun? Life is supposed to be a celebration, and it's supposed to be a joyous thing, because you and I are always discovering ways and means to make it more joyous, to make it more wondrous, to make it more of a beautiful, mysterious adventure unfolding. And we look forward to every day the way some people, and I don't get it, but some people look forward to the next game they can sit down and play and go to the next, whatever it is, the next advancement. I can't wait to play the game and go to the next level. We're in the game of life and we're totally ignoring all the levels that we could be going to. Why is that? Never mind why. It's not an important question. How am I going to get there is what's important. What will I do to get there is important. You have the power. I keep saying you have the power. I keep telling myself you have the power. But don't you feel sometimes very lacking in power and sometimes even impotent when it comes to power? Now, whose fault is that? It's the fault of erroneous thinking and erroneous feeling. It's the fault of depreciating ourselves of energy, of allowing our energy to get below 51%. Once you feel it that tanking down to 51 and 50%, it's time to re-up and fill up again. Don't wait. They even tell you about your car. Don't wait till your car is empty, gets to the sludge and the gunk. Don't drive on fumes. It's not good for the car, we're told. Well, why do we do that to ourselves all the time? I know people who deplete themselves right down to the last drop of energy, and then they wonder why they're tired and weary and get sick. It's up to you to take care of yourself and to tank up. And the way you tank up is to think good thoughts. Bring up good feelings. Change your thinking and change your world. Change, 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 change is the cry today. Be open to it. Go with the flow of it. Allow yourself to step out off the cliff where you think there's no bridge. And as soon as you put your foot out, the bridge appears. But you have to have the faith to lift that foot and step out. Are we ready for that, you think, yet? Yes. For those of you who didn't say yes, when in heaven's name do you think you're going to be ready? Because if you're not ready now, you're never going to be ready. Are you ready for it yet? Yes. And so it is.